All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Lots to talk about today, but as usual, we will start off here. Whenever there is a new announcement for new Xbox Game Pass games, we will start off talking about the next slate of games. And it's a small list, but I think a very strong list. You got Dune, Spice Wars, Persona 5 Tactica, and Roller Drome. So first of all here, Persona 5 Tactica coming to cloud, console, and PC on November 17th. And this is a day one Xbox Game Pass game. I think this is very big for Xbox, and it really shows us the transformation and the work that has been put in by Phil Spencer and the team there to try to get more of these games onto Game Pass, working with Atlas now that brings over their games to the platform and giving new Persona games day one into Game Pass is crazy. I don't think a couple of years ago, many people would have thought that this relationship between Atlas and Xbox would be at the point that it is right now. This is huge for them growing in Japan and just huge for getting a more diverse genre of games into the Game Pass service itself. It looks cool. I will more than likely be checking this one out and seeing what it is all about. Tactical RPG in the Persona universe. Then we have here Dune Spice Wars, which was previously on PC Game Pass. It's a real-time strategy game, and now it is coming to cloud and console on November 28th. So if you want to check that out, if you've been waiting for the console release, this will be your time to go ahead and play it. And then this one here, which is I'm extremely excited about, Roller Drome, coming to cloud, PC, and to the consoles, Xbox Series X and S, November 28th. And this game is just right up my alley. The more that I watch, the more that I see, it's exactly the type of weird, quirky games that I enjoy checking out. Super unique. You're rollerblading, and it's a third-person shooter. I don't know. That's the best way to explain it. You can see here, there's like bullet time. You do tricks when you're rollerblading. You can grind on rails. It just looks phenomenal, and graphically looks super cool too. It has great reviews already across the board. It's been out for a bit, so if you're seeing this gameplay and you've ever heard about Roller Drome, now you can actually be able to check it out on Xbox Game Pass. Kind of gives me vibes of like Sunset Overdrive mixed with Max Payne, I guess, because you look at Sunset Overdrive, one of my favorite games. The main thing that set that game apart was the traversal. It wasn't just running around. It wasn't like a cover shooter. It was, you always had to be moving. You always had to be above the ground, not running on the streets and stuff. And then you always had just a bunch of different cool weapons. So excited to see how this game is when it does drop on November 28th. So overall, I think that this is actually a great slate of Game Pass games that we're getting here in late November. I know it's only 3 games, but all of them very strong. Probably will end up at some point checking every single one of them out. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk about the Xbox tax, because as of today, there's a lot of discussion going on after the Game Award nominations. Xbox tax was literally trending after the nominations came out, and the main reason for that is because Starfield didn't make it into the Game of the Year category. Now, my opinion on Starfield not being in that category is I personally think it should be in there. I'm not surprised at all that it isn't in there. And I don't think it's a major injustice to the game that it is not in the Game of the Year category, because there are so many major releases, so many great games that did come out, where the list that we do have for Game of the Year is actually pretty solid. I think Resident Evil 4 shouldn't be in there because it's a remake. It's one of my favorite games. However, there are other new IPs that could have made it in there, like a Starfield. The one game that I think from Xbox deserved Game of the Year nomination more so than any game is not even Starfield. I think Hi-Fi Rush should have been that game from Xbox that got Xbox finally getting a nomination in that category. And it did get recognized in so many other different categories. And I mean, that kind of offsets the fact that it didn't get nominated for Game of the Year. But I mean, you see other games that get multiple nominations. Generally, if they're getting all these nods in every other categories, they're getting a Game of the Year nomination as well. So I would have loved to see Hi-Fi Rush in there, and I would have loved to see Hi-Fi Rush win. Unfortunately, that isn't going to be the case. But when it comes to the Xbox tax, Starfield is driving this conversation right now. And it's not just because Starfield's not in the Game of the Year. It's because of all of the mounting evidence from mainstream media and people believing there is a negative bias towards the Xbox platform and Xbox games. You think about all of the stuff that happened at IGN surrounding Starfield. The review, 7 out of 10 from a guy who clearly had a negative bias towards Xbox and their acquisitions and really had no business reviewing the game. You think about the posts that we see on social media, where every week there's that article that pops up, is Elder Scrolls 6 coming to PlayStation? We know it's not, but they want to get those clicks from the PlayStation fans. The times that IGN has forgotten to put out that games are releasing on Xbox. All of these things tend to add up and creates major distrust. And I tweet this out: whether you believe in the Xbox tax or not, there is a clear distrust in the gaming media. And the Game Awards and the nominations, I think, did prove that there is some sort of bias, whether it's towards Xbox or just in general. We're looking at these awards. They're all inherently biased. Everybody who's voting is biased towards what they like. I'm an Xbox fan. You come to my channel, I clearly have a bias towards Xbox. I play on everything. I try to be as objective as possible when I'm talking about the news. I've said many positive things about PlayStation. However, my bias and my preference is towards Xbox. And I think it's pretty transparent when you're watching my videos. Now, when it comes to people voting, they all have biases towards the games that they like. And a lot of them probably have a bias towards PlayStation games. It's just the way it is. They probably like PlayStation more than they like Xbox. The other thing that really proved that there is a major bias is that Hogwarts Legacy. I tweeted out my tweet about Hogwarts Legacy not being nominated whatsoever across the board, and that tweet actually blew up, and you saw a lot of people saying it didn't deserve it and all this type of stuff. And clearly they're just saying that, probably haven't even played the game. But Hogwarts Legacy deserves to get a single nomination in any category at the Game Awards, just to be recognized. It was, I think, the first AAA game from that studio. They did a phenomenal job, and clearly there was so much bias, so much cowardice from the people there that were voting. They didn't want to have anything to do with that because of the negative PR. And in my opinion, when you're looking at games like that and you're not willing to objectively say that this game is good, irrelevant of all of the things surrounding it, it just destroys all the legitimacy of the Game Awards. So people watch the Game Awards for the announcements. They don't really even care that much about the awards itself. However, every time there are the nominations, you have me, you have everyone on the internet, you have YouTube, you have X, everyone debating it. So clearly, it does mean something to the gaming community. And the only thing here that I hope happens going forward when it comes to the Game Awards is that they clean up the process. I mean, there were some other hilarious things here that happened to show that this is a half-baked award show. It's an absolutely half-baked award show. We see this best independent game, Dave the Driver. It's not even an indie game, and it got nominated for the best independent game. It says that Dave the Driver was developed by Mint Rocket, a subsidiary of Nexon, a South Korean company based in Japan, valued at 274.5 billion yen. In an interview, Kim Dae-won, vice president of the company, stated that Dave the Driver may look like an indie, but it's not necessarily so. You think about this here, which is, well, not Alex Jones putting on a tinfoil hat. Trying to find the tweet. It was another hilarious tweet where they nominated a coach who wasn't even coaching. This is XTZ, XTQZ, Ecstasy. I don't know. I can't read these weird names. He says this, tweets out, "Let's be serious for 2 minutes. I wasn't even a coach this year. Take me off the list." And he got nominated for best esports coach. So it's clear that the awards are half-baked. Nobody really cares that much about the awards. People are watching for the announcements, and it is basically just a massive marketing thing. But at the end of the day, Xbox hasn't gotten a nod for Game of the Year. I think it's 11 years going on now. The question at the end of the day is, what do they have to do to break that media bias to get people to vote for their games? Because I think definitely they had two games in there that could have easily been nominated, which is Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush, and neither of them got that nod. So Xbox tax or not, it doesn't really matter. People now perceive that there is, and they're losing a lot of trust in those major gaming outlets. Well, I'll leave that there, but let's move on here and let's talk about Xbox Game Pass. So we have here Mike Rose from No More Robots, who has commented previously on how good Xbox Game Pass is for their smaller games that they put out there. The games that maybe not a lot of people talk about, for example, Spirit Tea, which is launching or has launched into Game Pass on November 13th. It is phenomenal for developers. It's phenomenal for publishers to get their games recognized. And that argument that Game Pass hurts the industry is absolutely absurd. And we have more of that confirmed here. He was asked about Game Pass and how it works and what it does for their games. So specifically, Says here, Game Pass still very much works for us. It's helping our games break even immediately the moment we hit the launch button, which reduces a huge amount of stress for us. We've put Descenders, one of our other games, on PlayStation Plus, and that was also great for us. So yeah, in general, we're really enjoying subscription services as a publisher. And that is the major key thing here that I think a lot of people overlook when it comes to getting games onto these services. Why do you publishers and developers want their games into subscription services when they could try to sell their games at full price? It's because it allows them to reduce the overall risk for releasing, for developing these games in a time where it's becoming more and more expensive in the industry, with all of the layoffs that are occurring, with people, with companies out here afraid to create new IPs because they don't think it will sell. Subscription services like Game Pass help alleviate that. And the fact that they can break even the second that they hit the launch button means that there will be more unique games that are going to try to get into the Game Pass service. So I expect a lot of other major games, other smaller games as well, getting day and date releases, especially for No More Robots, who has extensively talked about how it has helped their developers and how they've made more money since they've started launching games to Xbox Game Pass. But pretty cool to see that we have some tangible evidence here of just how much it does for these games. Now, when it comes to Call of Duty, there were reports about Modern Warfare 3, about crunch, and how apparently this game was created in 16 months. And this was, according to Bloomberg, say reports citing several anonymous members of the development team who said the game was built in less than half the time, usually a 3-year cycle, as previous Call of Duty games. And this now has been updated. It's kind of been refuted by Sledgehammer Games themselves. A lot of people were talking about this with the release of MW3. I think it was kind of half-baked. But Sledgehammer Games responds on this and says, from the start of development, we have all been laser focused on creating the next groundbreaking Call of Duty game. Long before we wrapped up our previous game, we heard loud and clear from the fans about the desire to stay and play together for longer within the same series. Concluding here saying, we have worked hard to deliver on this vision, which has been years in the making. Anything said to the contrary simply is not true. So whether you want to believe it or not, it looks like Sledgehammer has been working on this game for more than 16 months. They've been working on it for probably around the same time as they usually do for their other MW games or for their other Call of Duty games. I think Modern Warfare 3, the multiplayer, has been extremely fun. I know people are complaining about it. Like I've said about the campaign, I thought the campaign wasn't great, maybe like a 6 out of 10 for me. But the multiplayer has been very, very fun for me. I actually like it better right now than MW2. So I think they did a lot in there. And it launched with 16 maps, which I think is pretty good. But whether you want to believe it or not, it looks like MW3 was in development for longer than people thought. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.